what advice would you have? And I guess I fall into this category a bit. What advice would you have for Andrew Tate? Because we've all seen the criticisms for supporting the far right, and even though he's doing overwhelming good, but for supporting the far right, committing shirk. What advice would you have for someone like him?
I think I actually speak to him privately. I spoke to him just today. You know what I mean? So, but what I would say to him is the stuff that I've been saying to him privately. But the main thing is, I think, strategically and morally, these are two different conversations. Yeah, morally, it's very straightforward. You just have to look at what the Quran says. If you take the Quran as now a moral guide, it's like any authority, bro. Like if you've got an issue, and I've made this example before. If you've got an issue with your health, you go to a doctor. He does a diagnostic, and at the end of it, he gives you a prescription. That's how it works. And if you trust in the authority of this doctor, you will follow the prescription set by the doctor. Now, if you accept the authority of the Quran, if you truly accept the authority of the Quran and Sunnah, that truly the Prophet Muhammad was a final prophet, that he has evidence to prove that he was a final prophet, okay, then أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. The Quran says that, does he not know what he created, and he is the all-subtle, all-aware. God knows exactly what he created. He knows what is the best belief system, the best practical application, etc., etc. So the moral discussion is always going to be clear. You know, when it comes to the far right, as we mentioned before in chapter 58 of the Quran, the very final verse, verse 24, لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ويدون من حد الله ورسوله. That you will not find someone who truly believes in Allah in the last day, that they will be in a loving relationship with those who are antithetical, they are oppositional to Allah and His Messenger, even if they were their fathers or their brothers, etc., etc. So that's one thing. It's not just. By the way, the verse is not saying non-Muslims. To be clear, it's saying those who are oppositional to you.
Yes.
You cannot be, and to your people, essentially, you cannot be good to them. Another verse is chapter 60, verse 8. It's a very key verse, which is, you know,
Allah does not forbid you from being just and kind to
لا
those who
ينهاكم
don't
الله.
Allah does not forbid you from being just and kind to those who did not kick you out of your houses and fight you. So God is saying you can be kind to them, not to the ones that fought you.
It says لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين. That God does not forbid you to be kind with those disbelievers, who are not trying to kill you or take you out of your homes, and tabarruhum wa tuqsitu ilayhim inna Allah yuhibbul muqsitin, that you're good with them. In fact, it's not just that our relationship with disbelievers should be okay, it's just kind of cordial. No, we should be good to them. That's what the Quran states. We should be good to them. Tabarruhum means be good to them. Bar means good. Tabarruhum, be good to them. Wa tuqsitu ilayhim, be just with them. That inna Allah yuhibbul muqsitin, that certainly Allah loves those who are just. إنما ينهاكم الله, that certainly Allah, He forbids you from being good to those who are fighting you or kicking you out of your homes. So if people are antithetical to the cause of Islam and all the Muslims, it's not allowed, it's forbidden. According to Quran 58:24, Quran chapter 60 verse number 9, to be good with them. Okay, so that's the moral discussion. Strategically, you and I both can see, and everyone can see, that the strategy of Andrew Tate has been a failure.
You think so?
Well, in this recent episode, not in his gender discussions, not in his opposition to feminism, not in his, male empowerment stuff. He's been iconic with that stuff. He's been the best maybe in the world in that stuff. But on this episode, he has been an abject failure, frankly, because what he's tried to do is he's tried to connect two things together. He's tried to connect two parties who are oppositional to each
opposites
other. And somehow create a middle ground. I mean, it works if you're going to bring two people that are quite close to each other and create a middle ground. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could do that with certain groups of the same party, for example. Like, for example, you could, political groups or religious groups, but they're quite close. There's a lot of flesh that joins. There's nothing here. There's no flesh that joins us with these people. Mm. They don't like us. They hate us. They hate our existence. Yeah. So what are we to sympathize with? What are we to empathize with? What are we to respect? There's nothing we can respect about a people that hate our existence. It's very difficult to respect. So the tone of, you have to be compassionate, because I went back and forth with him, and his argument to me was, you have to be compassionate with these guys. I can empathize, I can understand where these guys are coming from. Okay, you've got 6.5% of your country, that are Muslims, okay. it's not that big of a deal, guys. I'm sorry to say, as we mentioned before, there are Muslim countries with 40% of the country that's not Muslim, okay, from other countries. They're dealing with it. So likewise, now they've got citizenships, we've got citizenships, you've got to deal with it. I don't see much more that can be said about that, like, you know. But then, so the strategy, I would say, with Andrew Tate's strategy with this right-wing stuff has been an abject failure. And we've seen him lose supporters on both sides. Just take a look at his comments. Just look. Someone can do a data analysis. Use AI, ChatGPT, use something. Copy and paste all the comments, give it to ChatGPT, give it to some AI tool, and say, what is the popular opinion? And put the parameters on Muslims, conservative Muslims, traditional Muslims, B, right-wingers, far-right people that would sympathise with Thomas Robinson, whatever it is, in regards to Andrew Tate on this issue. You'll see negative. What he's done is he's created a negative public opinion about him on both camps, because when you try and please everyone, you end up pleasing nobody. Exactly. And there's actually a hadith to that effect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a hadith that says that if you try and please the people with in the displeasure of God, Allah makes the people displeased with you.
Yeah. And Allah will be displeased with you.
And I think there's also a verse of the Quran as well, chapter 2, verse 120.
Yeah.
It says, never will the Jews and Christians be pleased with you until you follow their faith. Say Allah's guidance is the only true guidance, and if you were to follow their desires, after all the knowledge that has come to you, there will be none to protect you or help you against Allah.
So it goes back to priorities of submitting your will fully to Allah.
If he comes,
it comes back there.
The thing is, though, bro, like you touched on a point, and I think, having said that, the Muslim community also have to be a bit more compassionate, and I stick by this.
The community is toxic, but to all us.
Yeah.
They're just Aki, they're like that to us, Aki.
Well, they learned from you, Ali.
They slaughter us. If you want mercy, then Andrew Tate will finish. But one thing I'll say to Andrew Tate is, like, would he ever have those interviews if Tommy Robinson spent 10 years insulting his mother? If Kate Hopkins was insulting Andrew Tate's mother, would he ever invite them for common interest?
The answer is no.
Okay. The Prophet ﷺ is more beloved to us than our mother and our father ever put together. Simple as that. So if you will not do that for someone insulting your own mother, then, again, look, I understand Iman takes time, faith takes time. So he's not at that level. You know, that's what Allah says in the Quran. To the Bedouins, He says, do not say you are a mu'min. You're not a mu'min. Your faith hasn't entered your heart. You are still a Muslim. That's why we say every mu'min is a Muslim, but not every Muslim is a mu'min. So we understand there's a stage, it's getting there. But I don't know, like, I just feel like sometimes, you know what, he can invite many other Muslims to his platform. He can speak about this. I don't know if he's studying the religion. I don't know. I'm just saying this recent things has
Well, to give him the benefit of that, he hasn't been around any Muslims.
But Aki, he has the
since
access.
the arrest.
But he has the access, Aki. Like, look, he's got you guys, bro. You have the access, bro. You have it. Make the most out of it.
Abdul Wahab, the thing is, he was brought up in Luton, innit? And Luton saw a lot of racism, especially if you're in the UK and in Canada. You know what the P word, the slur against Asians, and especially in the 1960s, like that was used before destroying shops, before killing people. Like, people were on edge. Like, you couldn't be visibly Asian or Muslim. If people were going to do anything, they would literally have that sprayed on your door, be shouting that as they're, violating your family. Somebody that's lived through that, that's seen that, for somebody to be casually plastering that around, showing migrants to be brown people, carrying daggers, and just treating it like a joke. Yeah. You can't attribute ignorance to him. He is somebody that's lived through that is aware, he's from that area. So there's, with somebody that's not from there, you can attribute a bit of ignorance. But the thing is, I don't know, there was a time that people were like, is he okay? Like, he's just,
I think
what's he doing?
With Andrew Tate, I think there's a part of him, which is really grandiose, and I think a part of him who just wants to see how much he can get away with.
Yeah, maybe.
He'll mention N-word, P-word, this and that. He wants to see how much people, he wants to see how much he can kind of get away with, like, you know what I'm trying to say? And he'll lose people in the process. Because when you do that once or twice, like, I was just speaking to some brothers from
how is that helping people get out of the Matrix, though?
Exactly.
It's not, I think it's a personal thing.
Isn't that helping people get into the Matrix?
By
increasing that divide.
Using curse words?
Yeah, no, like, when you're increasing a divide, when you're using words that are used by a specific demographic to bully and intimidate a minority.
Because you're taking away the power from them. If the word has no weight to it anymore because everybody's using it, then it's yours now. You own it. It's like black people retaking the N-word. But
that's black people reclaiming that word. You've got Pakistanis, if they reclaim that word, that's fine. But if somebody who's a mixed race, black and white person, randomly using that word, and then, a week later showing an immigrant that's brown with a dagger coming and saying, yeah, this is what the stabber looked like. And then when we found out it was a black kid called Axel Ruda Kobana,
a Christian guy,
who was a choir boy.
Born in Cardiff.
He didn't say anything. And when the second stabber ended up being a white Romanian, he didn't put up another picture of a white guy, with a Romanian flag coming over and stabbing. Do you see? So there's a bit of disparity.
I think,
and a bit of foul play.
There's a bit of out of touch. He's a little bit out of touch, Because I think, do you know what it is? When you're living in Romania, you forget the streets. This is the advantage of living in, like, wherever it is. If you live in London or New York and stuff, you speak to people. And you'll see their micro expressions. Like, for example, if he was in a gathering like this, or let's say there was more brothers here, and he's with black brothers and Pakistani brothers, and then he said the P word and the N word, and then he gauged their reaction. They're like, brother, don't say that. Maybe in his mind he won't say it because he thinks, you know what? It's not worth me saying this kind of thing. But if you're in a house alone in Romania, he's losing that important interaction. He's becoming more and more out of touch. So the only way to get back in touch, when you're rich, bro, sometimes you kind of have to, especially if you're at that level of fame. He's at a higher level of fame than everyone on this table, by far, right? And so what it is that you're kind of forced to move away from everyone. That comes with the advantage of, okay, you're not going to be dealing with everyone, but it comes with the significant disadvantage of kind of losing touch with what's happening. Your life becomes...
How comes he maintains touch with the likes of Katie Hopkins and he does interviews with Katie Hopkins? He's got time to reach out to Nigel Farage and say, I support you and W there. How comes he's in touch when it comes to these things?
Yeah, exactly. He lets people in. He lets people in. I think the reason why he probably tried...
Who has he let in from the other side?
far-right narrative, the reason why he allowed that to happen is because, in a sense, they're all outcasts. In a sense, we're outcasts as well. But he's choosing his outcasts. So he's thinking, okay, who represents the non-mainstream narratives? Like, if you really think about it from that perspective, who represents non-mainstream narratives the most? Tommy Robinson, bro. He is the most, in many ways, non-mainstream person out there. Obviously, the contradiction is he's a Zionist.
Yeah,
that's
and he's a bigot.
And no, he's an open Zionist.
He probably saw he's banned on social media. He went to jail. This stuff.
Yeah. So there's what
he's
Andrew
like
Tate has learned, bro. He's learned 100%. I cannot tell you that. There's no way, unless he's deluded, he would. Everyone makes mistakes. What he has had to have learned is that, okay, I've tried this thing. I want to see how much I can get away with, and he didn't get away with it.
That doesn't seem like a very smart strategy for somebody at his caliber. Oh, how much can I get away with? What are you trying to achieve? What's his goal?
I think it's more of a psychological thing, bro. I think it's a psychological thing. When you get that, think about it, bro. When you're at that level of fame, that level of money, you develop a grandiosity. That's what you develop. You start thinking, okay, I am the top G. The truth is, no, seriously, I am the top G. But the truth is, you're the top G until you get it wrong. Every one of us is mortal. Every one of us is fallible. Every one of us has limits. Every one of us will be told. Every one of us is susceptible to criticism. Every single one of us goes to the toilet. Every single one. And Andrew Tate is an anxious personality, bro. I've read him. I know him as a brother. He's actually an anxious personality. He's, I would say, much more anxious than his brother, Tristan. Tristan's much more stoic.
He submitted this himself.
Yeah, but you can see it. But he was saying, like, for example, he went to prison. He was drinking coffee after coffee after.
He's always doing something.
Smoking cigars. It's addiction. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, we were talking about. Sorry to say, bro. Sorry to say, you can make it look like masculinity, but it's actually just addiction. You're addicted to coffee. You're addicted to tobacco.
Yeah.
You might be addicted to sex. I don't know what you're addicted. Like, you know what I mean? You're just an addict. Okay, so what you're trying to cover? Anxiety. Okay, and you're addicted to Twitter. Islam, one of the great things about Islam is it will solve your addictions.
Yeah.
Wallahi, that's the whole point of fasting. That's the whole point of Hajj. That's the whole point of. Let's see, you got a sugar addiction. You've got a coffee addiction. You've got a cigar addiction. You know what I mean? I'm not even going into halal haram, but you've got an addiction. Don't try and dress this up as a masculine behavior. It's addiction. You can try and make it, because I've seen some of his tweets. He was like, I drink
20 coffees.
20 coffees a day.
Cigarettes.
Brother, sorry to say, so you've just told the enemy how to deal with you.
Yeah.
Put you in a cubicle, put you in a cell, remove coffee.
Yeah.
You remove coffee, you're going to be banging your head against the wall. Do you get what I'm saying?
Until you pray.
Remove coffee, remove cigars. I don't see that as a strong bro. A strong person intrinsically, I'm not saying he's not strong, he's got strengths.
Are you talking about me?
No, of course not. Of course. But these are his, I actually consider them to be weaknesses, bro.
Now he's talking about you.
No, I'm telling you outright.
On that note, please donate.
I'm not saying anything about his necessarily his life. People attack his lifestyle a bit too much. Okay, he's a nice watch or a nice car. He can have a nice watch or a nice car, but it's when you depend on those things. Right. To what extent Andrew Tate and his followers and everybody else has to ask themselves: to what extent is lavish living, is a nice car, is fame, is addiction to tobacco, addiction to coffee, whatever it is that you're addicted to what extent does that inform your self-worth? Like, without those things, what would you be? Remove yourself. Be an aesthetic for a week or a month. Put yourself in a room, dark room, you know what I'm trying to say, or a prison cell. Prison cell. Because you might have to be thrown into a prison cell. To what extent would you be able to self-soothe and manage your own emotions and modulate your own emotions? Islam gives you a way of doing that by connecting yourself to Allah, which is the most powerful thing, rather than to all of these substances and tobaccos.
That's a great point.
Actually, to be honest, you cannot tell me this is strength. I don't care what you say. Oh, if you're not a real man if you don't drink 2 coffees, 3 coffee a day, or 5, 10 coffee. That's, what kind of metric is this?
Right.
And from the days of Aristotle until now, no man alive has made a metric. You're just ad hoc justifying your own addiction.
One thing I realize about people really on Deen, guys like Muslim Lantern and other friends I have, they don't drink any caffeine, no nicotine at all.
I mean, it's okay so long as you're not addicted. Like, for me, the thing is this, is like, the higher levels of spirituality is when you, like, you might love your kids. There's such a powerful hadith. People don't know this hadith, yeah? It's a hadith about children. That children are a makhbala, they're a majbana. That children, when you have children, they make you more miserly, they make you more weak, they make you more cowardly. This is obviously Islam encourages having children, yeah?
But it makes you cowardly.
It's saying that when the hadith says, when you have children, it makes you more cowardly, it makes you more miserly. It makes you, why? Because you're always concerned about the child. You're always concerned. So what's it trying to show you? It's trying to show you don't attach yourself too much with people and things. Mm-hmm. Islam is a religion, which at the core and at the heart of it is, do not attach yourself with people and things, because both are going to let you down. Mm-hmm. The Quran clearly says, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. The human being is ظَلُوم, he's oppressive, and jahul, ignorant. If you rely even on friends or family or close acquaintances for your happiness, for anything, you'll be let down by that. If you rely on substances, you'll be let down by that. That's why there's this concept in Islam called ghina nafs, which is self-sufficiency. It's the idea of literally being able to handle life alone. You don't and only depend on Allah. This is wallahi, if you can master this. And it's a struggle because we're living in a hyper, sexualized world. We're living in the age of distraction, the age of technology, the age of addiction. Bro, the message that we should be sending to young people is not drink 20 coffees a day. I'm not saying it's haram, by the way. I'm just saying not connect yourself with things and people that can let you down and hurt you, and that can be taken away and then put you into a withdrawal situation.
Simplicity. Islam is simple.
Islam is about depending on the independent one, not the dependent ones. It's about depending on the self-sufficient one. So the moment you can try and kind of have a barrier between you and the creation, every part of you and the creation, have a barrier between you and the creation, then you become strong spiritually. And there's an energy that you will give off, a very secure kind of energy that you need. When you get this, nothing can touch you.
It's true stoicism.
That's how stoicism can be achieved. Wallahi. That's why people, like, back in the days, the Sahaba, the companions, the way they were, consider the following, bro. There was a small group of people that overtook the Romans and the Persians because they were ready to sacrifice their lives. You don't get to a point where you're ready to sacrifice your life unless you've built that really deep idea of self-sufficiency. Do you know what I mean? And submission to God.
Why do you think that they locked up Andrew and Tristan again 2 days after they started talking about Israel to that extent? Do you think that there's some... Is it a coincidence or is it strategic?
I don't know, bro. I mean, there's definitely a correlation there. I mean, his tweets against Israel has been spiking since then. Even the concerted effort on Candace Owens that we're seeing, she's come under attack. Even Dan Bazarian that you were talking about, he's come under attack as well.
He's very interested in Islam, by the way.
Yeah. I can imagine definitely based upon what Hijab just said. If there's no God, like Nietzsche said, God is dead. Yeah. G.K. Chesterton said, it's not that God is no more. It's that people will replace this void of God with other things. That's why you see when you go to football events, whether it's football here in the UK or whether it's football in America, the egg that you have in the hand and you run around with. Yeah. So still, there's a uniform that you wear. You go there, there's rhythmic chanting that you do. You laugh together. Yeah. You cry together. You go in droves. You go in groups. There's gatherings, there's discussions, there's regular meetings. You defend your side against the other side, and you preach, my player's done this and that. You replace Taylor Swift. Yeah, look at the followers of Taylor Swift. They're called Swifties.
Yeah, it's a religion to them.
It's to such a degree.
You didn't know this, Swifties.
I don't even know who she is.
Taylor Swift?
I've never seen a picture.
It's a white girl with the dress.
No, but even
I've heard of her, but I've never seen her.
That's pretty much all there is.
Even Justin Bieber, his followers are called Believers, isn't it?
Believers.
Believers.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about Taylor Swift is she just came to the UK to do a few concerts. She improved the UK economy by £1 billion.
She what?
She improved the UK's economy by £1 billion. This was on ITV.
Wow.
So when people come and say, "Oh, the power of celebrity," what celebrity? This is the power of celebrity.
You really don't know who Taylor Swift is?
I've heard of her. I've never seen her.
If she endorsed a politician, they would win the election.
Really, bro? Is she that big?
She's the biggest.
But I heard Cristiano Ronaldo, bro. One day he got 20 million subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, but Taylor Swift is next to her.
I want to
She can't be
read.
higher than him.
Yeah, she is.
No
Yes,
chance.
yes.
Speaking of Dan
No way.
Bilzerian, he replied to a Zionist tweet. Zionist tweeted, "The worst possible hate speech ever to be uttered is Allahu Akbar. Nothing else even comes close." And Dan Bilzerian responds to the tweet, "Allahu Akbar."
Well, I like this guy. Look, mashallah.
Great guy.
Do you know the thing about this
But
guy?
this is what-
That's funny, man.
He's had lots of women in it. He's had lots of.
Yeah,
this is his
and
thing.
this is
it's
what you
empty,
were
still
saying,
empty
isn't it?
after that. All the women, celebrity, drugs, this.
Yeah, because look,
Because it runs out.
That's the point. Like, this is. Consider the following. Yeah, like, if you think about what the strongest emotion that we have in this world is, yeah, it's not actually lust. It's love. It's just, in my estimation, it's the strongest possible human emotion, yeah? And the strongest possible bond that you can have is love, okay? For many reasons which I'm not going to go into now. But here's the thing. For us, we have to go back to basics in a sense and ask the question, what is virtue? What is virtue? Many people have spoken about what virtue is, and everyone agrees that there's a list of virtues. Things like strength is a virtue, things like bravery is a virtue.
Respect.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really put respect like that. But for example, compassion. They put compassion as a virtue. Do you know what I mean? They put magnanimity as a virtue. They put generosity as a virtue. These are kinds of virtues. For us, virtues would be, the main virtues are the ones that are connected to God's attributes. So we believe in God's perfect attributes, right? We believe Allah is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-hearing, all-powerful. He's loving. He's a loving God. We do believe that Allah is a loving God. He's most merciful. He's compassionate, etc. The extent to which we as human beings can be virtuous is the extent to which we manifest the attributes in God in our own human way. Obviously, there's a world of difference between God's mercy and our mercy, but we can manifest a form of mercy. So for us to be virtuous, we are trying to manifest the attributes of God. Yeah? So, when you realize that purpose, that, okay, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمْ مَكَارِمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I have only been sent to perfect good character. I've only been sent to make you virtuous, essentially. The question of, for example, because we mentioned this, Andrew Tate and others, you said, you got to love the Prophet more than you got to love your own parents. Someone would ask the question, why should you? Why should you love the Prophet more than you love your own parents? The reason why we would say that is because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the best manifestation of human virtue that the world's ever seen.
Yes.
And by the way, you can
And he wouldn't deceive without any
prove this Like, let's take 2 or 3 examples, and I use this with one person. I was just speaking to a Christian person in the park. One virtue that everyone agrees with, I'll just give you one, is bravery. Every single person agrees that bravery is a virtue. It's mentioned in the Nicomachean Ethics of Aristotle. It's a virtue. Now look at the New Testament description of Jesus Christ. The New Testament description of Jesus Christ. What courage did that person actually exhibit? We have here the character of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In 10 years, he was involved in 19 wars himself on the front line, in the battlefield. He never ran away from battle. There's not one narration that said he ran away from battle. He was always in the front telling other people to fight with him. Versus someone, according to their narrative, and to stress, we don't believe in this narrative, who was whipped and beaten and this and that, and there's no evidence of that level of bravery. Jesus versus Muhammad, Jesus of the New Testament, the false narrative of Jesus, versus Muhammad according to our scriptures, which of the two manifests virtue, the virtue of bravery more? You cannot conclude, if you're being honest, on a historical level, that Jesus in the New Testament, which we don't believe is the true Jesus, we believe that's a fabricated version of Jesus, that Jesus manifests the virtue of bravery more than Muhammad. There's no chance.
Speaking the truth, getting nailed to the cross, aren't these virtuous?
No, surely that's what you call moral virtue. There's a difference between moral bravery. There's a difference between moral bravery and physical bravery. But then if you want to amalgamate all types of, any definition of bravery you like, there is no difference of opinion that bravery is, essentially, most of the definitions would say like, you have fear but you act even despite the fear. Like, let me give you an interesting definition of virtue, of bravery, according to Castamato, who was Mike Tyson's trainer. He said the difference between the brave man and the hero is not that the brave man doesn't feel fear and that the hero does. He said both of them feel fear, but one of them acts upon it and the other one doesn't. That's an interesting modern definition of bravery, but it's in line with the classical ones. What I'm trying to say is that when you're involved in, and this is usually used as an argument against Islam, they usually say that the fact that the Prophet ﷺ engaged in so much war showed the kind of barbaric nature of the Prophet and all that kind of thing. In fact, this is ample evidence of his bravery. And if you want to juxtapose this with any other religious figure, there's no other religious figure that you have historical evidence of that manifests that one virtue, which, by the way, Aristotle said is the mother of all virtues, because without it, no other virtues can stand, more than Prophet Muhammad. Then we move on to another example. I'll give you another example. Okay, so that's bravery. Fine, you make a point. What else? We say we'll go to another example of forgiveness. Let me preamble this with the following. If you have a prisoner and a prison guard, you've got a prisoner in a prison cell and you have a prison guard, yeah? If, for example, the prison guard is going to take the prisoner and go and do something with him, and the prisoner says to the prison guard, he says to him, I was going to take revenge on you, but today I'm not going to take revenge. The prisoner says that to the prison guard. Would that be considered to be magnanimous or forgiving, merciful behavior? Not necessarily. Why? Because he doesn't have any power. So a prerequisite for showing mercy on someone is to have power. Do you see? If you don't have power over them, it's not really plausible to show mercy over them. Now, the character of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, the historical character according to that narrative, he never had political power. So therefore, you cannot make the argument, for example, that he could manifest a kind of mercy on people. You cannot make the argument, unless you want to use the theological models of he's God and all that kind of stuff, which we would even debate that the New Testament makes that very clear. But putting that to the side, the historical character of Jesus in the New Testament, he did not have political power, and so therefore he could not show a kind of mercy and forgiveness that the Prophet Muhammad did. Because when he went into Mecca, and all the people there were, those were the same people that tried to kill him, he forgave them. He forgave the people. So the Prophet has mercy. He has forgiveness. He has bravery. The seerah of the Prophet, and this is what everybody needs to do when they start practicing. They need to look at the biography of the Prophet Muhammad.
Well, your point is Muhammad, peace be upon him, is more brave than Jesus, peace be upon him.
No. I wouldn't put it like that. We're talking about their narrative, the New Testament narrative. If we're being objective, we get a mean definition from classical times until modern times of what the word bravery means. Apply it to the seerah. Once again, use AI. Apply it to the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad versus the New Testament, and see which of the two fits that definition more. I'm sorry to say there's no comparison, because in the seerah you have moral bravery, which is speaking. That moral bravery is different to, let's say, physical bravery, right? You have moral bravery where the Prophet ﷺ spoke out against tyrants and so on, but you also have the physical one. Whereas you don't have as much evidence of physical bravery from the historical character of Jesus according to the New Testament. Yeah. So I'm just saying that obviously for us, Jesus Christ is a beloved, infallible prophet.
We can say Christ?
Yeah, we can say Christ. Okay. We believe he's Christ. Yeah, Christ, the Messiah.
Assalamu alaikum, Dawood. How are you, bro? Good to see you.
Sorry.
How are you doing? Okay.
But from an Islamic perspective as well, everyone's going to run away from the Dajjal, right? The Antichrist. Yeah? Who's the one that's going to fight him? Isa alayhi salam. Our narrative, everyone's going to run away from the Antichrist and he's the one that's going to fight it. That's the Jesus we know.
It's everybody, or I thought it was 90% of people?
Everyone's running, even Mahdi. There's nada.
You're running too?
Me, brother, I'm the first one to run. What are you talking about?
I don't know if Mahdi's going to run away from him.
No, Mahdi alayhi salam is not. He's not going to. Mahdi alayhi salam is not going to.
Mahdi's running too?
No, not running.
Not running, but he's not going to face him.
So what's Mahdi doing?
We are told, by the way, it's not a thing of cowardly.
The only person that can kill the Antichrist, the only one that has the ability to kill him is Isa alayhi salam. No one else has the ability to.
Yes, our narrative is not. By the way, our narrative of Jesus. Wallahi, our narrative of Jesus is so much more.
Yes.
It's so much more practical, so much more virtuous than their narrative. Is what I'm going to say. Our Jesus is so much more virtuous. It's the kind of man any young person would want to follow. Their Jesus, they may, in their own religious context, want to follow him. But in the meantime, they're watching Andrew Tate because, in a way, Andrew Tate, the character of Andrew Tate, has certain things that the New Testament Jesus doesn't have.
Oh, man.
That's the truth.
They're going to be angry on that one.
It doesn't matter.
Who's going to be angry?
It doesn't matter.
Effectively.
No, I'm saying the New Testament Jesus, I'm sorry to say, is a contradictory figure. Because you've got him when he's got no power, yes, he's acting in a very forgiving, you could call it way, very placid way, very docile way. Yes. But then when he comes back,
the biblical narrative.
When he comes back in the book of Revelation, what does he do? He kills the prostitute, Jezebel, this and that. Why? Yeah. So the moment you get power, you start. It's a killing spree now.
Muhammad, peace be upon him, he forgave a prostitute.
No, I mean, when the Prophet ﷺ, he forgave everyone in Mecca. He said everyone was forgiven.
No, it was Allah.
When he was in power, and he chose to forgive.
Their narrative of Jesus Christ is not attractive.
He's talking about give the right cheek.
That's a very Nietzschean reading of Christ, I must say. That's what Nietzsche says as well.
Yeah, exactly. Nietzsche said the same thing. Yeah. Nietzsche said exactly the same thing. Nietzsche said that Christianity is a slave religion. Because if you look at the New Testament, it's like, who would actually want to be a loser? Because essentially, they've made Jesus Christ into a loser.
But why?
They've made him into a loser.
Why though? Why?
They've made him into a loser. He lost. Why does anyone want that?
Why?
No one wants to be a loser.
But then he resurrected.
Yeah, but I'm saying he got whipped. He was crying on the cross. He was begging God. He said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. God, why have you forsaken me? He's meant to be God himself. What kind of contradictory theology is this?
You know what I mean? What it is?
Makes no sense.
They've made a passive Jesus. Yeah. They thought that if they go and propagate Jesus' love and he loves everybody, they thought people are going to come to their religion, which is actually funny because we are very stern and we don't show our religion. And alhamdulillah, look, people are flocking to Islam. Look, it doesn't make sense, man. You're coming and saying Jesus loves you, everybody come, nobody's coming. So
their idea of Jesus in the New Testament, bro. And do you know this famous verse of give me this, slap me on the right cheek, turn the other cheek. Yeah. Bro, I've looked at because someone will say it's metaphoric. It's not metaphoric. I've looked at commentaries from church fathers, by the way. Yeah. Church fathers back in the day, and they all say it's literal. Not all of them, but I think the vast majority.
It's funny if you ask any modern Christian, and when you use that, they disagree. If you ask like any virtuous Christian, they're like, "Yeah, I'm not trying to." They just disagree with the Bible.
Go to the Bible Belt, Republican voter that you spoke about. Say, listen, forget about war. Yeah, let's turn the other cheek. That's republicanism, bro. It will take. Republicanism is based on Islamic principles. You know what? A lot of it is. In terms of war, let's fight. Let's do this. Let's impose dominance. It's nothing about turning the other cheek.
A religion has to be pragmatic. It's not pragmatic, brother. Even when you look at Henry VIII, why was he killing his wives? Because they couldn't get divorced. Imagine you're killing your wife so you can marry another one. Islam has a solution: polygamy. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's pragmatic, bro. The religion is there and it works. But anyways, let's go to our guest here.
By the way, Aki Ayman, he just sent me a message. He said, salam to all you guys.
Assalamu alaikum, Aki Ayman.
Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
We need you here.
Aki Ayman, what are you saying, Ak?
What are you saying?
Send me location.
Speak of, can I ask you